Good evening, all right, you too. At this time, I'll call to order the regularly scheduled committee meeting for the Village of Midlothian, Wednesday, September 4th, 2019, at 7 p.m. Roll call, please.
Trustee Kamey?
Here.
Trustee Crowley?
Here.
Trustee Gillis? Trustee Ivan?
Here.
Trustee Killelea? Trustee Kreis?
Here.
Mayor LaRue?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'll open the floor to public comment. If you'd like to be made a matter of public record, please stand, state your name and address. Rita Sarni.
I just was wondering if we have any update, if the attorney would know this or whatever, on what's going on with the post office.
You mean,
The fair.
Refunding the
oh yes,
mailing.
put a claim in, and as of right now, they are shuffling us around, but I'm going to follow up. The downtown Bedford Park office is referring us back to the Midlothian office. After the Midlothian office referred us back to them. So now I will go back and try and get an answer from the Midlothian office with the authorization from the claims division that we were supposed to go to them. So they are doing a dance, and we're just going to have to continue to question, and at the end of the day, we have a claim, and if we have to take legal action, we can.
Gene?
Okay, I have a couple of things. One, what's going on with replacing the pillar over by the gazebo?
That was put in for an insurance claim, and we're still waiting to hear back from the insurance.
Okay. Two, who do I contact? I was asked tonight by Chuck Hillier about getting the lights that are on the sign, and just having the bulbs fixed on them because it's not lit up.
Public Works,
Okay. Three, the ramp over by the Harris Bank, the handicap ramp, is that permanent or?
No.
What's the story with that?
They're doing $1 million renovation on the bank, and that's temporary until they get the front area done. It's just temporary.
All right, because if a handicapped person came, they couldn't get between the mailbox and the garbage can over there, the way it is right now.
The ramp extends that far west?
It goes all the way to almost to the end of the street, to where the street is. It goes all the way down.
Right. We'll have to look at that.
That's specialty equipment for that.
Yeah,
I'll check
and I
out.
was like, well, what the heck? Because they moved the flower box to do that, and nobody ever really asked if, I just worried that they'd damage it with their moving of it. And four, I want to thank Carl, and I don't know who else was involved with the transplanting of the flowers over by the fence.
Well, thank you. Ruth Becker was involved, and my grandson.
Thank you. Because I took and I texted Ruth, they said, what time are we doing it? Not that I'm a big plant person. And she goes, oh, it's done. I went, yes. Oh, and then, Carl, I need to talk to you after the meeting.
Okay.
Okay, that's it. That's all I have, I think.
Gene, thank you.
You're welcome.
Comment?
No.
Then I will close the floor to public comment and move on to trustee business. Trustee Kreis.
Okay, under community development, I provided everybody with the documents for the proposed modifications to the CalSag Enterprise Zone. Even though there are no changes to the pins in Midlothian, each municipality that's part of the CalSeg Enterprise Zone needs to approve the new IGA, the new ordinance, and this is necessary because Homewood, Hazel Crest, Markham, and Oak Forest are adding pins. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. The IGA and the ordinance are pretty straightforward. We approved these documents when we originally went into the CalSeg Enterprise Zone. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. If not, I'd like these on the consent agenda next week for approval.
And I did have the opportunity to attend that CalSeg Enterprise Zone meeting with Karen last month, and it was pretty interesting.
Yeah,
I was glad I went.
they're doing good, they do good work to spur economic development.
Okay, on the agenda for approval next week?
And that's, I think that's all I have for my business this evening.
I'm going to go ahead and take care of trustee Gillis.
Well, okay, under trustee Gillis's business, everybody received in board docs the memo from firefighter paramedic Gorski about advanced technician firefighter training. I don't know if there are any questions. I think the memo is pretty self-explanatory. I'd like that on the consent agenda next week unless there's any questions.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, the next item is repairs to engine 2743. Chief attached the estimate, and I know he removed a number of items, so I would like that on the agenda next week, on the consent agenda for approval.
Yeah, he told us that that is covered under the warranty, correct?
No. No, I think he's asking for 2,000, he had items 9, 10, 11, and 14 removed. The total's $2,904.44, ballpark figure. Some items may require additional parts, so maybe we could put on the agenda, again, and he has this budgeted, preventative maintenance not to exceed, say, $3,200 or $3,300. Is that okay? Okay, the next item, he supplied everybody with copies of the employment agreements for both the deputy chief and the captain. The captain is new. It mirrors the deputy chief employment agreement, and the reason the captain is new is it came out of the union. So, actually, we have here discussion and approval of these contracts. Does anybody have any questions? Otherwise, I'd like to make, I should probably do these individually, correct, Attorney Valadez?
Yes.
Okay. I would like to make a motion to approve the deputy fire chief employment agreement.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Trustee Caveney.
Aye.
Trustee Crowley.
Aye.
Trustee Ivan.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, and then I would like to make a motion to approve the captain employment agreement.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Trustee Crowley.
Aye.
Trustee Caveney.
Aye.
Trustee Ivan.
Aye.
Motion carries.
That's all I have under the fire department this evening.
Thank you, ma'am. Trustee Ivan.
Thank you, Mayor. The mayor doesn't mind, I wanted to discuss the approval of the 90 employee salary increases
Yes, sir.
under President's business. What I left in front of everybody's chair is the payroll change form. This is the document that all changes in employee payroll is supposed to be filled out, and with the trustee's signature and the board of, the date of the board approval. So this should be the methodology that is used to increase everybody's pay raise. So what we have done in the past, that this goes into executive session, we discuss it. This document is brought up by the trustee liaison in executive session with the appropriate documentation that's needed to explain why they're getting the pay raise, or if there's some unusual justification that needs to be done. Once that's accomplished, then after executive session is over with, we usually vote on that payroll change then afterwards. Going through a spreadsheet and approving everybody's increase is not the appropriate method that we've used in the past.
So what you're saying is that our policy states that this document must be presented to the board in executive session?
Correct.
I can't find that anywhere in the policy.
That's what the procedure has been in the past for all employee changes. Otherwise, the payroll change cannot take effect without this form being completed.
This form is what I get from the chief after the board has approved it, not before. Because on here, the form says date of board approval.
This form is how you communicate to the board how you're going to increase their pay raises. So we have to see it to approve it.
In 3 years, I've never brought one of these to the board, so I've been doing it wrong all this time.
Nor have I seen one there.
And last week, when we approved the pay raises for all the department heads, we did it in this fashion. We were given the chart that Clerk Moskal put together, and we voted on it and approved it.
According to the 2016 ordinance, you're supposed to supply
Okay.
the
Well,
documentation.
I have all my
to the board.
documentations right here, ready to
Okay.
be signed once we approve them. So,
Well, I guess I'm just confused then, so,
This is the appropriate vehicle to communicate to the board.
then why
The
haven't we
payroll
done
change.
this for 3 years?
We
No one,
have-
no one, I've not seen this document in executive session once in 3 years that I've been here.
Nor have I. I mean, typically, the raises are voted on, approved, and then this gets,
and then it gets filled out and signed and
This is
given
part of
to
the
me.
review process that gets filled out on completion of the review with all that documentation that happened. This is how it's supposed to be done.
But how could we attach this if the board hasn't approved it?
It doesn't have to be signed and checked off. It's just, this is the point in time
That's just,
that
you
you're bringing
just
it to
fill
the
it out,
board.
and that's, instead of putting together a spreadsheet, we bring a whole bunch of those.
And all the appropriate documentation that is needed to justify the raise.
I know, that seems almost cumbersome. It
That's
seems,
what the ordinance states.
we don't
Which
have an
ordinance?
We don't have an
ordinance.
ordinance.
We don't have an ordinance for this.
The 2016 one says
We have
it.
a policy.
We have a policy.
We have a policy that's what I sent out just recently, but the 2016 ordinance says that
Can we have a
there's
copy of it then? To follow?
Are you talking about the
Because
2016 compensation plan?
Yes.
Okay.
That's not an ordinance,
It's not
it's
an
a
ordinance,
policy.
it's a
a policy.
policy.
It's a plan, compensation, I think it's a plan.
But I'm looking at the compensation plan that Alan sent a copy to me, and it's not dated, it doesn't have a date on here, it doesn't have an effective date.
Yeah, but the last
March
paragraph
11,
states.
2015.
That was 2015?
Yes.
So
Is that
that's not,
2016?
so that's not the right one either. Can you forward us what the plan is, or process, or procedure, so we all have it in writing?
Alan, do you send them the one that we passed?
It's actually in board docs in the library. I put it there today.
Is that
Okay.
the one that we got emailed?
Yes.
So that's 2015, not 2016?
I'm not aware of anything from 2016.
Was it on? Oh, I'm sorry, that was the other document.
So Alan, where would it be in the library?
If you go to library,
Yep,
general,
I don't see general.
Okay, the performance management /
Sorry,
evaluation
it's on the
policy is dated January 16th, 2018.
yeah, I'm not sure.
And
It's
that's
actually-
different than the compensation policy?
Yes.
Wait, what did you say, Kathy? I'm sorry, Miss.
When we went to the performance evaluation process, there was a policy effective date January 24, 2018. And it says that merit increases are normally authorized at the beginning of fiscal year and are subject to salary limitations and guidelines established each fiscal year. Annual salary increases are merit-based, reflecting each employee's performance as evaluated by his or her manager. Merit increases will generally be distributed on a percentage based around the average percentage as deemed by the village board and treasurer. That was from 2018.
But in the document there, it says effective, this will be effective November 17th, 2016.
What document are you looking at?
You're looking at the compensation policy.
No, I'm looking at this one. It's dated January 24th, 2018, effective November 17th, 2016.
Where? Does it say effective November
This 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth line, halfway across the page.
Right, that's when we tried to start the evaluations, but it really didn't get going until, when I do your first evaluation. 2 years, right? That might have been the typo. Because on the bottom of each page, it says effective
Yeah.
January 24th,
2018.
2018.
Okay. All right, so now I have to go to the library, click on library, and do I click board members or general? Alan?
If you go to policies,
I clicked on library, and I
It's
got
not
a
in-
drop-down box that says general events, strategic goals.
it's
board
not in
member.
library, you have to click on policies.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Policies.
Next to
okay.
agenda.
Yeah.
Active,
Policies.
see a book that says Village of Midlothian and
Active.
compensation underneath it.
Oh, I see it.
In section E, merit increases, it does have a reference
Oh,
to
compensation.
a completed performance evaluation form must accompany each merit pay increase request. All increases must be approved by the finance committee with final approval by the village board.
Right.
So I guess,
This is a payroll change form, though. So what we
Correct.
should be getting, what we should be doing with the raise is taking their evaluation to the executive session?
But the evaluation form doesn't have a place for the percentage or dollar amount. So that's why trustee Ivan was saying accompany it with this page. So we can look at the evaluation if the board wants to look at the evaluation. But we can't share the evaluation. I mean, that's,
Yeah, the evaluation can't be part of the public record. So that's why it has to be an executive session. As well as the payroll change isn't supposed to be part of the public record.
Okay,
That's why it's, again, an executive session. So this tells the dollar amount. The review tells you how successful the department head believes they have accomplished their job. And that's part of the documentation that you would need to justify the cost. Now, the board may require more, or the department head may think, I want to exceed whatever the board has recommended in the past, and he would provide additional documentation to justify this form being approved by the board. And that, once completed and signed by the trustee liaison, then it goes to the treasurer.
okay, so what you're saying is that the clerk prepared a spreadsheet, but now all of this is going to have to occur in executive session before those raises are voted on.
Correct.
Well, why did we approve the department heads raises last
Department
week?
heads don't fall underneath those things. It specifically states that they're not part of it.
Department heads are not part of this
No, that
compensation.
is the duty of the mayor. That is the duty of the mayor. He handles all that stuff for department heads.
So department heads don't fall under the same compensation plan
They don't
policy,
fall under this particular procedure, yes.
which is the compensation plan that I'm looking at.
I believe so. I believe it specifically says that.
No, it says here, the village pay plan, it says, wait. I'm reading it.
For all employees.
It says all employees, yeah. It still has to be voted on, because it refers to all employees.
And we-
well, I finished all their evaluations and I turned it to the treasurer and I asked the board to vote on the raises. So I'm good.
Yeah, we did that last week.
Y'all got to figure out your crap.
And our crap involves this and the potential of additional documentation that may be needed to justify the raise.
Well, everybody, all the department heads provided all the raise information to Alan. He assembled it in a spreadsheet. So that's the department head's communication as far as what they feel their employees are due as far as increases. I have completed all the forms, well, Nick completed all the forms for his employees, so I have those done. I don't see any reason why we can't move forward and discuss the spreadsheet that Alan provided us.
We can't discuss that in
Not
public.
here, we're not going to discuss it in public, we can discuss it, I mean, we don't have to discuss it in public, we just have to vote on it. If we wanted to vote on it, I'm sure everybody reviewed it and read it. And then after we approve it, then all the department heads and their trustee liaisons can fill out these forms and have them signed, and Alan can sign off on it with the date.
Why?
And then it
There's
can
no-
go,
there's not even a spot here for the clerk to sign off on it.
Well,
And why would he need to
this one
sign off?
says here, approved an offer letter, so,
Right. Date of board approval.
yeah, this looks like it was revised 9/4/19, so I don't know if this was a form that, I don't know who did this, if Maggie did this, or if you did this, Carl?
It's probably one that she started to,
So
Put
what we've
together.
done in the past is
This is us for new employees.
so what we've done in the past is this gets filled out after the board approves it, because if it changes, you'll be doing these over 7 or 8 times. So we've always brought it into executive session with discussion. Once we're done with discussion and the board approves it, then we fill it out. And I guess my whole kind of thought process is, why do we even discuss a pool or raises if it's kind of mute?
No, it's not mute. The pool, if you give them a raise within the pool, you can say that is the reason that we're doing the change. That's your documentation. The pool is the pool we've approved for that department. The department head pool is all within the budget process, and the raises fall within the pool, then that's what your justification for.
Because you may have an employee that even
No,
though.
I understand
Yeah.
that. I understand the process. I'm
Yeah.
simply saying that in 3 years, though, we've never done any of this way, nor have I ever seen an evaluation form from any other department in executive session with these attached.
I didn't write the ordinance.
So, but I mean,
It's
it
not an
doesn't say
ordinance.
that. And it
All right,
doesn't
It's a
say-
policy.
Could I just clarify one thing that has to be clarified? The personnel discussion of performance may be done in closed session, but the actual approval and vote for these increases must be done in
Right.
public.
Right.
Just want to,
We understand that.
yeah, just
Yeah.
want to make sure that.
But I agree with Sandy. I think this is going to get confusing if these are prepared before the board approves the raise, because what if it changes? I think we might,
Okay, that's a good point. I completely agree with you. It could get confusing. I didn't realize that filling out the dollar amount is that complicated, but it can be.
Well,
the logical
Hold on,
answer.
hold on.
What I'm saying
It's
is,
not that
when,
it's confusing, it's
when you're
simply
ready-
that every year it's something different.
when you're ready to bring it to before the board, you should have this form, so it
And
goes straight to the
This is
treasurer.
the first
and gets
time in 3 years of doing this that I've been told that.
Well,
First
then-
time.
Then you need to check with your department heads, because they know that this is part of the process
Dan?
to get approval.
Have you ever had to put this in front of the board before? He wasn't a department head before, so he and I are learning the same
No,
thing.
he brings it before his trustee liaison. It's the trustee liaison's
I sign these all the
responsibility
time. I
to bring
sign-
this before the board.
We have a lot of employees in the police department, I sign them all the time. Every time there's a raise, every time there's a pay status, every time there's longevity, I sign them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time, and they go to Maggie. Every time something changes.
The logical solution is exactly what happened this time. Everyone sent their raise to Clerk Moscow. He put it in a spreadsheet. We can go to closed session. We can discuss them all. There isn't that many non-union employees that we're talking about. I think that's the logical solution. Very simple, very easy. And then we vote, come out and vote.
And if we need to change our policy, procedure, ordinance,
Right.
slip of paper, however it's written, that's fine, but it just needs to be one way so that we're all doing it the same
The
way.
procedure's already written this way. That's what I'm saying, okay?
Carl,
Just because it wasn't
doesn't-
followed doesn't mean that it's
I
all of a
want you
sudden
to show
wrong.
me where it says the pay change form must be
The
attached.
procedure says that.
Show me.
I'm looking at the compensation plan. Isn't that the procedure?
No.
It doesn't say it.
Then which procedure
That
are
is
we
a
following?
plan. The village procedure to get a change is this document.
Is the procedure written
Not to
somewhere?
get it approved, though. This is a change form, not an approval.
Yeah,
form.
it's a change form, not an approval form,
It says
exactly.
approval on it. Date of approval by the
It
board.
says payroll change form, Carl. This is the payroll change form.
Right here at the bottom, it says
Yes,
board
but this
approval.
document is called the payroll change form, okay? This is the payroll change form.
So,
We know that every year, we've got to fill these out in order for the employees to get raises. And I recall last year, after we had our executive session and we voted on everybody's raises, I filled out, because we didn't have a superintendent then, I filled it out, executed it, and gave it to Maggie, and everybody got their salary increase. So, you know-
after the board
right, after
did
we,
the After the
right,
board
after-
voted.
After we voted, after we approved it, exactly. And I don't recall, I did not fill this out to go into executive session. I did not have this for executive session.
How
I
did you
recall,
present the raise?
because last year you said we had a pool. The pool was 3%.
No, no, no. The detail of the
Stop.
raise
Hold
for
on.
the individual person.
Hold on. We went to an executive session to maybe we had a list, maybe we had
We
another
did the
chart.
same
I don't
thing. I
remember.
think last
If we had a
year-
maybe we had a
We
list.
did, the clerk has always
I don't
put a
remember
list
having this
together.
form in advance. Maybe I did. Maybe I did have this form in advance. I don't really recall. But I was in favor of giving, whatever the 3% raise was, and that's what we voted on, and
Last week, Dan filled out the change forms for both of the people that we're talking about in the police department. I signed it, I said, don't date it until after we've approved it by the board next week in case something changes. So he's holding it.
I'm sure we had some list.
I bow to the will of the board.
Turning something.
However you guys decide you want to do it, you tell me, and I
Carl,
will change the procedure.
I'm sure that procedurally, we had some sort of chart. If you remember when we started the
I'm
budget
totally agreeing
process,
whatever you guys want to do.
when we had,
Alright?
Just
when
give
we
me the
started
procedure
the,
and I'll follow
when
it.
we
I don't
had-
have a procedure.
when we
This
had
is
the
the
budget,
procedure.
when we
So it's
had,
not in writing, it's just that.
Yeah.
It is in writing, we distributed
Can you
it
hand it?
years ago.
Can you give it to me? I've only been here 36 months.
We had training involved.
I wasn't here then. So can you give me the procedure that's in writing so that I can follow it?
Dan, do you have the internal procedure that you used for employee change?
We're turning something very simple into something very major.
I
Just-
agree.
Just send all of the raises to Clerk Moskal, he'll put a spreadsheet together, we'll discuss it in closed session, and then we'll vote on it.
isn't it on the agenda to be voted on? Because we already did that.
No, we didn't discuss certain, I wanted to go into closed session tonight.
So we can do that, right?
Yeah, we
Are
can
we,
do
are we going to
I mean,
closed
it's
session?
not fair that
I-
the employees are waiting. I mean,
Yeah.
it's September.
Yeah,
Using this process, you could have done it any point in time during the cycle,
Then why was Don wrong for signing off on his?
because he didn't bring it before the board.
Okay, but again, I thought, now, this is going back to me not realizing that we had approved the budget. If we approved the budget and all of his employees were within their 3%, then why does it have to go before the board?
because the plan says all the increases have to be approved by the board.
Okay, all right, well then,
I believe that to be cumbersome, but if we put one spreadsheet, and we do a one fell swoop, I think that's not too cumbersome.
okay.
But
And
when
we
we-
have that spreadsheet that we could discuss in closed session.
Sure.
Then come back out and vote on it, and it's done.
I may
We
not
can
be
all
here.
sign off on these forms, and then we can move forward.
That's
Is
it
there
for
anything
me.
else?
Okay,
That's
how
it
do
for
I
me.
get back to the agenda?
Trustee Cavney.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, first, I want to say that last Thursday, I had the opportunity to attend a breakfast meeting at Commissioner Donna Miller's office in Oak Forest and represent the village. And I'm trying to find my folder here with all my paperwork in it. And it was, the purpose of that meeting was to meet President Pretwinkle and introduce ourselves, give her a quick little bit of information about, what our village needs are. This is the first time I attended one of these breakfasts, so I wasn't sure how much time every person would be given, because there were about 12 or 13 people in the room. So the mayor had given me a couple of wish list items that the village would really like, and one of them was resurfacing Pulaski, from 143rd to all the way to 159, adding a crosswalk at 146th Street to provide safer access to Springfield School, and then also the crosswalk at 149th Street in conjunction with the RTA trail. So I had brought an extra copy of that RTA trail document that we had gotten from Superintendent Sperry last Wednesday, and I presented that to Christina Rivero, who is President Pretwinkle's legislative coordinator. She was there. So I'm going to follow up with Christina again. And so then I had a brief conversation with Jacqueline, who is Commissioner Miller's assistant and our chief of staff, and she had told me that Commissioner Miller would like to come to the village sometime in September, possibly October, to one of our board meetings, just to, attend a meeting, introduce herself to the residents at large, and, come to a board meeting, and then find out at a board meeting if there's any other needs that the village has. I did bring a couple of documents that we can leave up at the front. They talked about, President Winkle talked about 3 initiatives for the Southland. One was infrastructure. They want to try and get all the roads in good repair, especially now that we've added interchanges at 147th. They're fixing the interchange or upgrading the interchange at 159th and Kedzie. So they're focusing on adding more infrastructure. The other thing was job training. They, in conjunction with South Suburban Mayors, and I think South Suburban Mayors and Managers is involved in this. Yes, they are. They have created the South Suburban Economic Growth Initiative, and they're going to, they're going to focus on transforming economic development, improving economic development, and also job training. And they also had flyers to announce that the new Blue Island Health Center is being built at 127th and Western, and it should be open later this year. It's going to be open and moved to Blue Island later on this year. And then the Oak Forest Health Center will be closing. So it was an interesting meeting. During that meeting, I just raised my hand first, introduced myself, asked her about Pulaski Road, and then the Mayor of Justice spoke. And he really hit a chord for a lot of the other mayors that were there. He spoke about crime and sales tax. He said that his merchants and his police department are up in arms because they've got a lot of retail theft going on, and the problem is that it's continuing to escalate, and the police officers' hands are tied because the state's attorney is not prosecuting these crimes. And if that continues, that level of, I don't want to call it petty theft, but that level of like lower criminal theft is going to continue to escalate until it's a major crime. So she said, and Commissioner Miller said, that the estate's attorney would be willing to come out and have conversation with, whoever of the, villages would like to participate. So I don't know if Commissioner...
You said the Cook County State's attorney said they would be willing to come out?
The President Winkle, said that she was sure that the state's attorney would be willing to come south and have conversation. So I don't know,
I think this
we can
occurred
follow-
before, did it not? Yes.
Well,
Attended one in
Yes.
Hazel Crest where she sent her constituent, she didn't show up herself. It was like their number 2 or their number 3 that showed up. They didn't really want to say much at first. They just kept saying they're understaffed and they want to focus on drugs and violent crime and everything else, but into a political rant, but their office is just arbitrarily changing the law. The Illinois compiled statute says that anything over $300 that's stolen becomes a felony theft. They're arbitrarily saying over there that anything less than 1,000 is a misdemeanor.
Right.
The statute also says if you have 2 prior convictions, it becomes felony. They're saying 10 now.
10.
Yeah.
10.
Yes.
10.
So this is nothing new.
So all
Right.
of these communities and these store owners are up in arms because they're not doing anything about retail theft. People are getting poached and pillaged and everything else. And
Right.
it's not just that. It's drugs, it's driving unsuspended, they just want to focus on the violent crimes, yet I'm not going to go on a tangent about that either.
Right.
Their office seems to be doing anything they want. So
Right. Well, if
there
they're,
are more people
if
out
they're,
of jail
if,
than they put in.
to that I would say, if they really want to focus on the Southland, that they need to start allocating more financial resources to their office, to that state's attorney's office, so they can start focusing on cracking down on some of these crimes, because it's just going to continue. I agree with you, it's just going to continue to get worse, not better.
And Chief, how long ago did you attend that meeting? It was probably...
It wasn't even a year ago, it was maybe
Yeah.
6 months ago.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm not getting into,
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's the political beliefs of it that I'm sure they would be more than happy to share their views that certain demographics are prosecuted fairly in their mind. So they're just arbitrarily dismissing this stuff until it becomes equal. And like I said, that's unfortunately an argument that we're all going to have to collectively have with them, because one voice isn't going to change all of that.
Right. And after the Mayor of Justice spoke, then Paul Braun, who's the mayor of Flossmoor, chimed in and as well and reiterated what he said and mentioned that he and another mayor were having a meeting of sorts that I had made Chief Delaney aware of, so that he could reach out to them and attend that meeting if he wanted to.
Many of the people in the state's attorney's office are just as frustrated with what the upper echelon is doing. So we voiced our concerns. They didn't disagree. They are understaffed, but that's no excuse to just arbitrarily dismiss stuff that's in front of you.
Alan, I had put like 5 notes on here earlier today to remember what to talk about, and they're not here.
Should we move on to?
No,
trustee Ken?
I'll remember what they are. Okay, real quick, we have been notified by IDNR that a couple of our flood maps have been updated, and IDNR is requiring that the village update its floodplain management ordinance. The way our ordinance is drafted, it's a floodplain management, stormwater management ordinance together under one ordinance document. And so last week, Attorney Valadez, Superintendent Weiner, and myself had conversation with Marilyn Succo at IDNR, and she went over the document with us in the process. And then I had a follow-up conversation this morning with Carrie Pintar from Robinson and also with Marilyn Succo at IDNR, and she explained exactly what language we did need to have updated. So Carrie is going to put together a checklist, and it's not as extensive as we initially thought, Nick. We are not required to adopt that model ordinance she provided us. The village is not required to adopt that entire ordinance. There's a list of like 3 or 4 items that we're required to adopt. Carrie's going to put the list together, and thank you. And she is going to send that over to all of us. So I wanted to update the board on that. Next thing, Superintendent Weinert forwarded an email to me today that he got from the South Suburban Building Official Association, and it was information that they were forwarding on from FEMA. Number 1, FEMA calls for requiring up-to-date building codes and federal and state grants and programs. So they are pushing forward so that, going forward, if anybody's going to be applying for any type of federal grant money, you're going to be, that municipality is going to be required to have updated ordinances. So I'm happy to say the Village of Midlothian is well on its way to that already. We've updated most of our building codes already. I think we might still be waiting on the plumbing code, but that's a holdup with the state of Illinois. And the last code, I believe, the last ordinance we have to amend and update is the property maintenance code. But all of our ICC codes have been updated, and those ordinances are waiting to be codified. So the village is in very good shape there.
We did the energy efficiency?
I thought we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've done all of them.
We've done all of them.
Isn't the plumbing, I think the village adopted the plumbing code, but we had to send it to the state of Illinois
For public health.
to public health for them to review. So we're waiting to get the thumbs up from them, and as soon as they approve it, then we can send it to Sterling Codifiers to have it codified. The other item in the same email was that FEMA announces funding opportunities through its Hazard Mitigation Assistance Grants Program. This fiscal year, they're going to have $410 million of funding available through 2 programs. One is the Flood Mitigation Assistance Program, and the other one is the Pre-Disaster Mitigation Program. So they are holding webinars in September for the next 2 weeks. I asked Superintendent Weinert and Superintendent Sperry if they would sign up for the webinar, just to hear, to get an idea of what kind of programs these grant funds can be used for. Because I know, Nick would know if we've got anything building-wise, development-wise that we could use a grant for, but Joe would know better, from the public works side of it. The application period is from, trying to find, oh, here it is. Application period is, it opens on September 30th, and it closes on January 31st, 2020. So, hopefully, we'll be able to, those guys will be able to review those, and maybe we might be able to apply for a grant for some additional mitigation. And last week, I was working with Superintendent Weinert and the attorney with regards to a new ordinance we're going to work on, but I'll let the attorney discuss that during his business. And I think that's all.
Thank you, ma'am. Trustee Crowley.
Thank you, sir. Just a couple things tonight. On my agenda, I have the discussion and possibly approval to hire a new crossing guard. Our alternate crossing guard is not returning this year to the village, and this is the person who, whenever someone calls in sick or is off and can't be to work, fills in. So I wanted to discuss that with the board, but I also had a question. I'm still a little confused as to whether or not replacing a part-time employee like a crossing guard requires board approval. So can someone clarify that for me?
It does not, but it's nice to bring it to the board to let you know.
So, since it does not require approval, I will not be asking for approval, but just as a measure of transparency, the chief will be hiring a new crossing guard. Okay? Second on my agenda, I sent everybody an email and copies of the estimates for new police radios. Our XTS 5000s are now obsolete. They are no longer managed, maintained, or sold, nor can they be repaired. A lot of police departments have this model, so a number of police departments got together as a group pricing. This is something that Chief Delaney has put in his 5-year plan. And so unless there's any questions, I would like to add it to the agenda for next week's meeting.
But there was a financing piece in there, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
We're getting them at a discounted rate with the 5-year, with the financing and 1 free year of no financing.
What is the total financing? I don't have
Could
it.
you send us that?
I did, it's on board docs too.
It's not on board docs.
Oh,
It's not on
emailed it to
board, yeah,
everybody.
it's not on board docs.
I thought I put it on there.
No,
It's not.
you just,
I
no.
just emailed it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back in my email.
It is.
40 radios, 193,141. Motorola due 5 years, financing deferred payment until 1 year after the purchase. Annual fee after 1 year is $43,084.18. We budgeted these radios for the 5-year plan. We had a current radios for 10 years now, and Motorola stopped supporting them and making parts for them last year. All municipalities are being forced to upgrade from these current radios.
I guess my question is, what's the total finance charge that we have to pay? I hate it when we have to pay
Well,
It
interest.
was attached in there. It was-
Yeah,
I think it was,
but the other thing is if we don't do it as a group, we don't get the group rate.
Oh, and everybody's gonna do it and finance it, so we don't have an option.
all Calcom got to.
Well, we do,
Well, we
but
do, but we
We'll
won't
pay
get
a lot
that same
more.
price.
Okay,
Do it on
okay.
our own.
5 years, annually arrears 3.69%.
so unless
The only
anybody,
other option is to pay up front,
No, we're not gonna do that.
and they deferred it for the 1 year.
Yeah.
So I originally had it in this year's budget to do it, but when we had the $500,000 shortfall, I pushed it off a year.
Okay.
But when we were able to negotiate them deferring it for a year,
Okay.
back to the table.
Okay.
so I'd like that to be on the consent agenda for next week.
Nice.
Other things, everybody probably saw that Ruben was on site today getting ready for the phone conversion.
Yay.
Long time coming. My understanding is tomorrow they will also be on site. They will start setting up the phones on everyone's desks for the go live on Friday. I have no doubt that there's going to be things that we're going to have to work through. I did send out to all the department heads a little cheat sheet and information book on how to use the new phones. There's a number of them in our conference room, and Proven will be here to assist with the transition on Friday. Once that's complete and we're sure that everything is working smoothly, we anticipate within the next 2 weeks having the new servers installed, and I was informed I don't have to call them virtual anymore, I can just call them servers. So
Are they in the cloud or on the cloud?
they are in between,
In between the
in
cloud?
between being on it and in it.
They're our personal cloud.
You will-
Just as a side, in addition to what you said about the phones will be on the fiber optic connection. We have not phased that in yet for the rest of the computers as well.
So we will be, that's going forward, it's, what is it, voice over IP?
Over IP.
Very,
VoIP.
that is it.
Voice over IP?
Yes, so
VoIP.
you see all these wonderful things I'm learning that I never wanted to know.
You will have to dial 9 to get an outside line, and anyone's extension that started with 9 will be being changed to starting with 8.
Okay.
So that would be a change.
Since we're going to a VoIP system and we're getting these new servers,
It's been a VoIP system.
Okay.
It's nothing new.
oh, okay, do we have UPSs attached to anything in case the power goes out? So that we don't lose, like, any programming in the phones and lose anything in the, on the servers?
We have an emergency generator and a UPS available for everything.
We do, okay, very
That
good,
came up a few years back.
okay.
It's battery supported as it switches over to the generator.
Right, I installed one before, so I know what that is, that's why I asked.
Look at you.
We just gotta remember to change the batteries.
Right.
Anything else?
Just a couple other things, just a couple updates. We did have our community service meeting week before last. A lot of good things came out of it. I know they did vote to approve paying for the frames for the Keep Midlothian Beautiful posters. So I know they were ordering that, and I talked to Trustee Kreis. We're going to make sure they get those to them as soon as they come in. One of the other things that came up is we were talking about different projects that could be done for community service with the schools, something we always try to keep keep on the top of our list. And one of our thoughts was having our schools become part of doing some of the service for possibly doing some of the fire hydrant pavings. So I talked to the mayor and I talked to Chief Delaney, no, wrong chief, sorry. Chief Hotwagner, and seemed to have some good feedback. So what I will do is I will send an email to Jerry, a copy of you on it, Karen, and see if we can come up with something so that the schools can get involved with that. I'll also copy Joe on it, because I know he had something to do with that as well. We're going back, with the start of school. I'd like to thank the police department. I know I wasn't here last week, but I've gotten a ton of compliments and a lot of people very impressed with the back to school, welcome back to school that the police officers did for the 3rd year in a row. The little goodie bags went over with a huge bang. So thank you guys very much. We really appreciate it. The last thing is we are going back to with schools. We will start our quarterly school meeting with the mayor, myself, and Chief Delaney, and that first meeting will be in October. So I will keep you guys updated. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you, ma'am.
Excuse me, I do have something for Trustee Killelea as well.
Yes.
Can I bring it up now?
Sure.
Okay. I believe, yesterday, Superintendent Sperry sent out proposals from Robinson for Phase 1 stormwater study for Bremen Heights and for Belly Button Hill. So I went over these, and I'll share the board my concerns. I don't know if anybody else has poured over them like I have. But what I did was, and I think that the first thing that jumped out at me is they did not reference the stormwater management capital plan. And all that work that went into that plan, I just kind of felt like it was dismissed. So I sent an email to Superintendent Sperry this morning, and I'll outline some of my concerns. Because what I did was, I got the plan, and I may have missed something, but these were the things that jumped out at me. What the plan recommends in the table 1, if you go to the matrix, it recommends televising the existing storm sewers in each area. And that for Belly Button Hill is $53,000, and for Bremen Heights is $63,000. They confirmed, and then he sent this off to Robinson. And I thought that the village should consider the televising to make sure the H&H modeling reflects the conditions of the sewers, and that's coming right from the Stormwater Management Capital Plan. And the engineers confirmed it is our, and I didn't see a recommendation in their plan for the televising. The engineer did respond, it is our understanding that these areas have not been televised, but could be incorporated into work plan for 2020. The televising and cleaning contract, which is kicking off now, does not cover either Belly Button Hill or Bremen Heights.
Do you think perhaps that when they were putting these two proposals together, that they were mirroring the proposal that they gave us for the work that they did over in Jolly Homes?
I don't know, I didn't go back, I didn't have time to go back and look at that, because that was pre-Stormwater Management Capital Plan.
Right. But all the work, I'm guessing all of the work that, because this is a phase 1, all the work that they're going to do in phase 1 for these two neighborhoods would be similar to the phase 1 work done in Jolly Homes, so.
Correct, however, I think that televising it's an important piece here, because it'll talk about what needs to be done, fixes to the stormwater sewer system.
But you're saying that they did reference the televising on the matrix, they just didn't include it in the proposal?
No, they didn't include it in here.
Oh, you're talking about, it's on
Right,
it's on the Stormwater Management Capital.
But it didn't make it into these proposals, which I think is an important part. And I talked about here that the Stormwater Management Capital Plan is not mentioned. And since the Stormwater Management Capital Plan mentions both the H&H modeling and the topo surveys, it may make sense to reference the plan, so we're not reinventing the wheel. They said they're in complete agreement that the Stormwater Management Capital Plan is a useful document, but more of a broad strokes type of report that does not go into the level of detail. The previous Jolly Home study accomplished this, which has a more finite scope, but they say they have no reason to discount or discard any of the findings or recommendations unless they discover more detailed data that makes some of the options unworkable. Then I thought, when he went to alternative tasks, which is tasks 5.
Wait, are you referencing the Stormwater Management
No,
Capital Plan?
I'm going back to the
document.
proposal, okay?
Okay.
So then I suggested maybe we should have a meeting to discuss costs, circle back to the Stormwater Management Capital Plan to assess, maybe discuss the pros and cons, which are in Table 2, the infrastructure opportunities. During this alternative analysis process, they said we would certainly agree and entertain an additional face-to-face meeting with key stakeholders to discuss the alternatives and costs. So anyway, and I did talk to Superintendent Sperry about this later this afternoon. So he had no problem with my, I said, there might be something I missed. So what I would suggest is everybody go through it. Everybody's got the plan. And then if you have anything you think should be included, Joe asked that you get it to him as soon as possible. He'll get it to the engineers, and then they can, I'll ask them to redline it, to update the proposal, to take these things into consideration.
So that I have a better understanding, would you mind sharing your email with all of us and the response that you got from the
Sure,
engineer?
I can forward it, okay, so you can see.
Because that would be very helpful.
Yeah, because he said here,
It sounds to me that Robinson put together the very same type of Phase 1 proposal for these two neighborhoods as they did for Jolly Homes, and included all the necessary detail. It sounds like what you're potentially asking us to do, and which is fine, is to go over the stormwater management capital plan and maybe add a few additional tasks.
Exactly.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That would be, I mean, that's fine with me, just so long as everybody realizes it's gonna cost more money. I mean, because these plans are both approximately $25,000 apiece. So
Right.
if we need to add the televising,
But that's up to Joe. I mean, that is something, I at least wanted it, I guess I was bothered that it wasn't even identified in here. That would be total, and I understand that, that's totally separate. But I think it needs to at least be on the table, because it can be part of the solution. If you go.
but don't we have to, I understand what you're saying, but don't we have to go through the Phase 1 first to see what level of information, what information is gleaned from the Phase 1, and then look at the stormwater management capital plan?
No, because one of the recommendations for
Okay.
all the areas was televise the existing storm sewer in each focus area to determine if there are any deficiencies in the system.
Mm-hmm.
Then the pros are explore opportunity for immediate fixes to the stormwater sewer system, can be completed in conjunction with infrastructure projects. Cons does not provide immediate relief to the flooding areas, but it can be part of that potential fix, and it might be able to, I
That's
just thought
fine.
it made sense.
Yeah.
Just because, and I really think because of all of the time and effort that went into this, it really should be, some of these things should be referenced in here. And it will help us kind of keep track of everything. The board adopted the plan, so I just think it makes sense to include it, okay? Include the reference.
Okay.
And so if we can get that, if everybody can look at it, and if you have any other comments, and we can get Robinson to update it, we could potentially vote on these next week. And that's all I have from trustee Killen.
Thanks. Attorney Valdez?
Yes. Yesterday, I received notice from the Teamsters Union with regard to the sergeant-lieutenant contract. We are no longer in tentative agreement, we are in agreement. So they sent over the documents for their signature, and when I get it back, the board can approve, ratify, and have the mayor sign it. The fire contract, we've had some discussions and worked on some things that might lead us to maybe have one more discussion with them before we proceed to mediation. We are very hopeful that we may have an outcome similar to the sergeants and lieutenants, and that our talks on Friday at 2 o'clock could lead to another acceptance tentative agreement with language to follow. The massage ordinance. Trustee Caveney and the mayor have asked me to review the issues regarding a problem that we are having within the village, and that is specifically massage parlors going into the massage therapy industry and using it as a guide for illegal sexual activities. Pursuant to that, I was referred to the Mokina ordinance, where they had similar problems, and they drafted an ordinance to try and address that. So I have, or will have, a ordinance for the board to look at probably by early Monday to address this problem that we are having. There is currently an application for another massage therapy business to go into the place where the mayor revoked a license for sexual activity and arrests that occurred on those premises. So we will get that ordinance to you with my review and suggestions to address some of the issues that we had in our experience, which is mainly the guise of massage therapy licensed by the state in order to bring in women who perform illegal acts. So that's what we're going to address.
I know Chief Delaney reviewed it, and so did I, and I think we had a couple suggestions. Do you want us to wait until we get yours, or would you like us to forward those to
Oh,
you
you
now?
could forward to them as,
You want me to forward them to you now?
right, yes. Like I said, I have the ordinance, a rough draft done, so now is a good time to plug in
Okay.
any concerns that you have. One of the items that I changed from the McKenna ordinance is that they had the hours of business from 10 PM from
That was one of mine, too.
from 8
what?
AM to 10
The
PM.
hours of operation.
From, I suggested that we reduce the hours to 9 PM and start it an hour earlier. The theory being that any legitimate massage place would want, someone to be able to come in before they go to work, and then immediately after work. And that illegitimate places, I just don't see any need for a legitimate massage therapy place to have late night hours.
Right, I agreed. I thought that was also something that should be addressed. One of the other things that Chief Delaney and I talked about was the background checks. So I
That's-
think that's something that we
Is that
have-
included?
Well, that's something that we're going to have to find out legally what the
Yes, there-
department is
before-
and cannot
again-
do and how they can do
Oh.
it. If we even want to be in the business of doing that, or if that should be on the responsibility of the business owner.
What does the Mokina
The
ordinance
Mokina
say?
ordinance has very rigorous background checks, including going into the background to find out if any of the owners or any of the employees have been engaged in this business before and whether they've had arrests for doing what we don't want to do.
But does their ordinance specify who does that background check? If it's the police?
Yeah, the
The
village
police
would do that, the
specifically do
licensing
it?
process, yes.
Okay. Well, and can we do the same?
Well, we can't, there's very rigid circumstances in which you can run leads backgrounds. I mean, I know that.
You can't run them without the fingerprint.
Yeah,
But I
finger-
think what my question to him was, are we legally able to do that, or are they
Right.
going to do it themselves?
Sure, I think we can, because again, it's important to remember that this is governed by the state regulations for massage therapy.
Right.
We do not want to
Which is governed by
conflate
the IDNR.
massage parlors, because that's a completely different thing. We don't want to regulate massage parlors as massage therapy places, because massage parlors have to, it's a sexually oriented business, has to have a special use, and the village has much more latitude in zoning and control. If we require the same requirements of a massage parlor, it's tantamount to having the cashier at a porn store be an accountant. It's just not going to, we're not going to be able to enforce that, and it's showing the way to a massage parlor on how they can be legal and avoid the special use. So we want to leave,
Wait, run that by me again?
if we require massage parlors to have the same requirements as massage therapy places, then no one would want to be a massage parlor. They'll simply just go, they'll do what we're doing right now, which is what we're trying to stop. We'd be pointing the way. You can't have a sexually oriented business unless you become a massage therapist. And we don't want to do that. We have sufficient regulation of sexually oriented businesses in Midlothian now. We have zoning laws, and we have restrictions with regard to that behavior.
So you don't think that it's important to have a similar application process in the sexually orientated business
No,
ordinance?
they're completely different things.
They have to go through a special use, that'd be a whole nother rate,
It-
level
it's-
of.
It's a different activity. We would be, the situation we're in right now is because the industry, that means the sexually oriented industry, has learned that if they get one person certified to be a massage therapist, then now they can have a legitimate looking business and engage in sexually oriented activities. We don't want to provide
Okay.
that opening for them.
Does our village have any sexually orientated businesses right now? Okay, I didn't think so.
Yeah.
There's no zoning for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, and surprisingly enough, as I looked at the Mokina ordinance, their sexually oriented businesses is almost identical to ours.
Yes, it is.
So,
It is, almost word for
And
word.
then my other question was, with regards to these background checks and fingerprinting, do we come up with a fee scale to charge people for this?
yeah, we can, absolutely.
Because that's something that we'll need to,
Can you maybe reach out to the Mokina Police Department and find out how
so
to do
we
it?
definitely would need to do that.
Yes, that would be
Costs.
different from Mokina, because it looks like Mokina still charges just $100.
So we would need to at least recoup our costs and time for the officers having to come in off the street.
Well, they charge $100 for the business license.
Correct.
Didn't say anything in there about,
No,
I thought it said, I thought there was language in there that said that they had to reimburse for the fee of the application, the background checks and all that.
I didn't see that.
No?
I didn't
saw-
see that.
Okay.
I didn't see that, but I read it.
Maybe I just want it to be in there.
So we'll have something for you by Monday, and hopefully, if you send me what you think you're concerned about, I'll try and address it, but I don't see any reason why we couldn't have it ready to go by the next regular meeting for approval. That's it.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, sorry, one last thing. The time has come. This week, Naperville City Council voted to ban recreational use of sales in Naperville. If the village is going to take a position on this, we probably need to schedule a public hearing within the next 40 days so that we can take public input. That would be the best practice. Just to let you know, when Naperville had it at their regular board meeting, the meeting went till 3 o'clock in the morning, and there was 4 hours of testimony from both sides. So
Wow.
I would suggest that we don't do it at a village board meeting, but we do it at a special.
Other towns are going to online SurveyMonkey, to try to get to their constituents. I don't know what you guys think about that. I don't mind sitting here hearing people talk.
And we could probably do it both ways.
Yeah.
I would suggest both ways.
Okay.
And I think it would be good to get a recommendation from the Illinois, whatever Chiefs of Police Association.
They say no.
Just, you know,
So,
There's your recommendation.
but even if the village board takes a position of voting no, does the new state law require that we have to put it on a referendum ballot at some future?
No.
Or we can opt out.
The
Just like
law-
we did with gaming, we can opt in or out.
Yeah.
Oh, so, okay, because initially, when I was reading in the newspaper, when they were putting the law together, all municipalities would have the option to opt out, but then within a
Sales.
year,
Sales of recreational marijuana.
Sales.
We could also allow usage parlors, charge fees, business license fees that.
like a hookah lounge,
Yes,
you could just go and smoke it? Okay, so what is it that we're discussing then?
Sales.
Just
Whether
the
someone could open up a marijuana store, a cannabis store. in-
Recreational.
Recreational.
recreational dispensary.
Right.
Okay, so that's what the discussion's gonna be about, not also, or are we also gonna be discussing
Discuss.
Just
the
discuss both
prohibition or the allowance of
on-site.
an on-site hookah
On-site
lounge?
consumption.
Yes,
On-site consumption lounge.
correct.
So who's gonna put you're gonna put it together?
After he works on the
Yeah,
spa.
I could do that.
Yeah, he first has to work on the spa.
The spa will be ready by then.
Spa first,
Spa
marijuana
ordinance.
second.
Well, then I have one other question for you. The Comcast contract,
Pete Murphy is working on that in addition
the
to
night
the night court, so hopefully we'll have something within the next 2 weeks.
2 weeks? All right. Comcast asked me about it again, so.
Yep.
Did you ask Comcast where our channel is?
It's in the contract.
So, yeah, my business, we will discuss in closed session and return to open session to presumably take a vote. So Clerk Moscow.
I just have a couple things on the agenda. There's a note about the meeting minutes from August 21st, which I believe I sent already. I will also have minutes for the 28th for you tonight or tomorrow, and I'd like to put those on the agenda next week as well. And thanks to Deputy Clerk Kalaki, who's been getting those done before the next meeting each time. I received a request just before the holiday, but too late to put this on the agenda, from Bremen High School. We would like to request permission from the Midlothian Village Board to conduct our annual homecoming parade on Friday, September 20th. The marchers will line up at Bremen High School at 3:15 p.m. and the parade will step off shortly after 3:30 p.m. They will proceed east on 152nd Street to Ray Day Drive, north to 151st Street, east on 151st Street to Central Park Avenue, north on Central Park to 149th Street, and then west on 149th Street to Springfield, turning south to 152nd Street, and then finally back to the parking lot at Bremen. If permission is granted, we would appreciate you advising the Midlothian Police Department and Fire Department indicating the parade route. Thank you for your consideration in this matter. Jessica Ryczinski, the assistant principal. Does anyone have any concerns or issues with this? Okay, we will get this to the police department and the fire department, and Maria will send them a response tomorrow. The last thing I had on my agenda, and I apologize for the lateness of the note, but I did send the board an email today with some more information around the Board Docs Plus demonstration that Maria and I participated in probably about 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago. And this again would be the add-on subscription to allow us to manage all the committee and commission agendas and minutes through Board Docs. There's no hardware cost. We could hold on-site training sessions, but Board Docs actually provides that. They actually have a specialty group that does just this. I did include a few bullets of additional things not in Board Docs, sales pitches or materials about it, but, you know, for example, and I think I mentioned this last week, we don't really have a good tracking system right now for minutes for commissions and committees. We have been asked by a few of them to publish them on the website, and our current website, where we were previously storing all the agendas and minutes, didn't really have space capacity to be doing this for everyone. Board Docs is designed to do exactly just that. So we can easily store those items there. There's also some workflow things, so items that are discussed in a committee, let's say the finance committee, if there's something that was discussed and that needs to go to the board, it can actually be transferred and populated on the agenda automatically without someone having to request it, and all the attachments or things like that would go along with it. There's a couple other things that are escaping me at the moment. The cost would be an additional $8,000 on top of the $10,000 we are paying now. And I'll note they haven't billed us yet, actually. We are due for renewal in November, so they have not been anxious to collect our funds. And this obviously would be prorated if we agree to do it. There's a $1,000 setup fee, which they would waive, as they did when we signed up for Board Docs for the board. And they also offered to help do some preloading of agenda templates and things like that for the different committees if we so chose to do that. So does anybody have any thoughts, comments?
Just a couple questions. The Plan Commission's been very active. We've been meeting monthly because we're working through reviewing and possibly making some recommendations for updates to our sign ordinance. And so Louis is the chairperson. So would Louis be responsible for going onto Board Docs and creating his own agenda?
Either a chairperson or a secretary, who's ever doing that now. I mean, these committees are all creating agendas now, and Jean can speak for this because I know she does, she has in the past.
Well, I don't know if
prepared
Louis does it or if
agendas.
Louis calls Maria, and if Maria does it, actually. Oh, he does his own agenda?
I think the
Okay.
ones I've seen from safety, from beautification, from the Plan Commission, everyone's doing them already, so.
Okay.
There's not a limit to a number of users, so everyone in the committee could be set up to use it.
So we'll just have to train them and give them access to it so they can, on their computer at home, go in and create.
It's great
an
for
agenda.
document sharing, and it's not,
Okay.
obviously one of the things, benefits that I brought up last year when we talked about this for us was saving paper. If people choose to come with their laptops or their tablets or phones and they want to follow along with that way, they don't have to print out hundreds of pages of, if there are any attachments or things, particularly maybe for you, like with the Plan Commission, or things people want
Right.
to see.
The only question I had, I thought letting the committees do that, use Board Docs is a great idea, but from a practical standpoint, how many committees would actually, do you think, would use it? You know, I actually have the Secretary of the Beautification Department here, committee. I could ask her for her input at this point in time. Jean, do you feel using the Board Docs that we use currently, would that be an asset to the beautification committee?
I think it would be, yeah.
Okay.
To do the agenda and the minute meetings and stuff, I think it would be.
I also hadn't had the chairman of the technology committee here as well. Could we bring him in as well and get his opinion on
Sure.
using electronic board documents for the technology committee? What say you, sir? It would be nice? All right, so you definitely have two committees that are willing to use the technology. I don't know about the other committees.
I can't think of one that has been asking us to create agendas for them.
I
Maria could
think-
probably speak better to it
I
than.
think all of my committees, they all create their own agendas. So I think I'd want to find out, like, the Veterans Committee, I don't know that they would, and they're hanging on by a shoestring when I'm meeting, that they would embrace this.
So my fallback plan is we create that for them, or if they're absolutely comfortable creating it how they do now, or you might be creating their agenda for them when they have it.
Well, yeah, because we haven't had a secretary.
We can do it. I mean, that's something Marie and I can do and handle. The nice part about it is there's templates, just like our regular agendas, where you obviously have to change the items. Ours changes all the time with the number of things that the board discusses, but if there's a somewhat standard template of an agenda, it becomes a 5-minute exercise to do. And that's something that we'll do. We could do that for them. I mean, it's not ideal. We could actually take an agenda that the committee would give us, whether it be in Word or PDF, and still put it in board docs as an attachment. The benefit being, people can go to the website and click on agendas and minutes and pick their commission or their committee and see all the agendas and minutes. So it's the time commitment or the concern maybe about or uneasiness if there's people who aren't comfortable doing it. We can still work with that, and if we show them how to do it once, they might actually like it better. But the fallback plan is we would do it either just use the same format they're giving us today, or we could recreate it, for them and post it.
Well, then the question would that add an undue burden to your workload?
Based on the number of agendas we're getting now and the people who are asking us to do that for them, I would say no, because no one's asked us to actually create them. Right now, they're sent to us, and most of them are coming in email. Sometimes they're dropped off. And we post them, when we get them, but we've also had instances where committees have needed to change a meeting or reschedule a meeting, and maybe it's after hours, or maybe they want to see if they can do it on a different date, and now this would kind of put that control all in their hands. They could go to the calendar and move it. Board docs will publish it 48 hours in advance. It'll be available online, so we're compliant with the Open Meetings Act requirements, and then we can actually go in there and see which ones have had minutes done or not. We have not been using the minute generator for the board, because Marie has been continuing to do the minutes the way we like to do the minutes. But we had a situation this last week where Kathy needed a copy or some type of record that a discussion or a vote was taken, and as you all know, there's sometimes a few weeks before our minutes are done and they're approved, so we actually used the board docs functionality. It gives you a very, I'll call it a lean version of the minutes, but it has everything that's required legally to have minutes. So that could actually save time for some of the committees that either don't like doing minutes or don't do them often enough. You can have board docs load all the automatic things, and then you can go in there and add in whatever else you want to put to kind of enhance them, but it's another nice automatic feature.
Well, based on the response from my committees, I'm more than willing to support moving forward on that application.
Yeah, I think that the committees would need training. You'd have to
Absolutely,
train them.
yeah.
You might have to train them more than once.
And I don't think, we would probably set up something, we'd have to do it at least annually, but I think initially, Sandy's going to train them? Kathy's going to train them?
No, no.
No, we would
That would be
facilitate.
disaster.
We would facilitate something so it's here. We would not turn folks loose on board docs, although their support has been great when we call them. That's something we can absolutely do. So, okay, if anyone thinks of anything else, or you change your mind with concerns, let me know. Otherwise, I am going to put this on the agenda for next week so that we could take advantage of the waiver of the $1,000 implementation fee. And thank you. That is all I have.
Thank you, sir. At this time, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn to closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of a specific employee of the public body.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? There will be action following closed session.